y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the.
Yeah, welcome back to Sooner Sound Waves, episode 6. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We've picked up a few subscribers. Like us on Facebook. Make a comment. We'd love to interact with you all, both on Facebook and YouTube. Here we are, episode 6. I'm Iceberg. Alongside me is the good fella. And St. Pablo.
Sooner.
All right. Coming off a victory in our SEC opener against Auburn, Oklahoma, coming out 24-17 over the Auburn Tigers. St. Pablo, your thoughts?
All right. Well, 24-17. Thought it was a great game. Obviously we were talking about last week. We seem to be quite a bit of on target and ahead of a lot of news that was in the college football world. And I even think that we were pretty on spot in our podcast here on a lot of things that were, likely to take place in this game. Honestly, I felt like it, played out the way in which we articulated from all three angles. The big story going in, we all felt really comfortable about knowing Jackson Arnold. I think that he did hold on to the football too long. We all mentioned that. We all discussed that in the game. And that obviously with our defensive line and just how stout they are, that was like the last thing you wanted to do. But he cannot, I don't know that there's that internal clock does not work there for some reason or another. I mean, you got to be counting. So again, we could go back, please, those of you that are listening, go back and listen to our season 1 episodes. We discuss this frequently. We actually kind of went back and forth, all three of us, talking about, was it the offensive line that should be maligned as much, or is it Jackson Arnold holding on to the football too long? Well, you know what? Hugh Freeze bragged about his offensive line. He said he was 6 deep. These were NFL guys, and he had a great offensive line, and he was sacked. Now, help me out here, guys. 10 times, but then I see 9. They bring back 1. I don't know what happened with that.
I think it's nine times, and one of them there was a penalty. I think the 10th sack is the one that they called the somewhat bogus horse collar on.
Okay. Well, I saw, that night it was 10 and then 9, but to tie a school record, and obviously it as far as the theatrics would go for a football game and being a Sooner fan, it couldn't have ended any better, particularly for those of us that had the spread, that took the Sooners with the spread. R. Mason Thomas capping that off for us was amazing. I thought John Mateer, and I'm not going to go too much because we're going to talk about this pivot later. I think even now, knowing the conditions that he was playing under, shows again what kind of winner this guy is. And so he had an amazing game. And I don't even really want to address the officiating in the ball game because it's part of football. I've watched the Sooners for decades now, and I'm telling you, we've been on the other side so many times. And I was surprised to be on the positive side of, maybe some bad calls, but nonetheless, it was an amazing game. I do want to give one last shout out here, and I'll wrap this up. I don't think I have ever heard on TV the crowd like that ever, or at least in a long, long time. I think that Norman has created a SEC home field advantage. When you come to Norman to play, it is a very difficult spot. And it should be. Just like every time you go on the road in the SEC and you win a game on the road in the SEC, that's a big deal. and you're not going to beat us at our house was the mentality. It was awesome.
Good fellow.
I want to piggyback on that. You talked about John Mateer. I think starting out, I think he came out a little bit rusty. He wasn't as fine-tuned. And I'm not sure if it's after the injury, but when you talk about the grit, when you talk about the determination, it's the it factor. I think he has the it factor in terms of, like, it doesn't matter what game we're in. He's in. If we got him on the field, we are in the game. I don't want to bring this guy up, but in terms of like his intangibles, reminds me of Baker Mayfield. Like he's like a winner. Like he's a winner. When he's out there, he's making other guys better. He's making other guys compete. So to see him on the field, to see him now have to have surgery, we'll go in there later on, but to know that it happened early on and he competed at that high level, it just says a lot about what it means to him to play with that OU crimson on his back and on his uniform. Like he's dedicated. He wants to be there, and he wants to show the players like, hey, no matter what, like we've grinded all summer, we've grinded all fall, and it's here, and whatever it takes, we're going to try to get the win. So I'm just happy that he's able to be that leader on the field that we need. I will say, if we're just talking about offensively, like we still got to figure out our run game. Like I know both teams struggle on the run game. I know our defense is solid, but they gave us opportunities. We just couldn't do what we need to do, and we need to figure it out in terms of how we go forward in a couple weeks when we're playing down south. We have to have a run game, something. Right now, I don't even know. How they're designing, how they're looking at it in terms of getting the ball on the ground and running the ball. So I am curious to see what we do in this bye week. I'm curious to see what we do against Kent State in terms of the run game. Now that we will have Michael Hawkins, and he is a really good runner, but how we're going to incorporate some more running into upcoming weeks. But give it up to our defensive line. I think they've played and done an outstanding job. Jaden Jackson, he is a monster. Pair him up with Stone. I don't see any team in SEC in terms of our defensive line. Like it's going to be a struggle for any offensive line when they face up with OU's defensive line, as everyone is staying healthy. Our linebackers, it was fun to watch. I was listening to some of the after the post game show, and they were talking about that last sack by Mason. They were talking. He mentioned that he was talking to the linemen, and they all kind of agree, like, hey, go get this last one. Like we wouldn't want you to go ahead and solidify this game for us. And to see him do that on that last play to beat two defenders and get that sack, man, that was amazing. I know the atmosphere went crazy. His teammates went crazy. But it just shows, like, how dedicated those boys are, young men are in Norman in terms of this football. So that's great game all the way around. Passing game was solid. There's a few things I think in terms of, we've done so well defensively. We need a takeaway. I think I've looked at that. We are the only FBS without one takeaway thus far in the season, and we had two that we just gave away Saturday. Like we got to get those two. Once we get one, I think they'll complement that non-sacks. So that's what I have for my recap.
Yeah, that's good stuff, both of you. So for me, I don't know why. I know the Facebook is all about a bunch of algorithms, but for some reason, Auburn podcasts kept coming up on my news feed, if you will, last week, and I kept listening to them, and they were super confident, and it started to kind of bother me a little bit. And they did talk about their interior offensive line. mainly their interior three, and they didn't think there was a defensive line in the SEC that would bother them, so they weren't necessarily worried about us. And they were confident in Jackson Arnold just because, I mean, the kid's full of potential, but that's it. St. Pablo, you're right. Everything we said last year had to do with him holding onto the ball too long, and that's what he did. Should be 10 sacks. We'll call it 9 just because that's the official record. But anytime you get sacked 9 times, you have a problem. And I think, the first sack that our Mason Thomas had, I think it was like 5 or 6 seconds he held onto the ball. You can't do that as a quarterback. You got to get out of there, or you got to throw it away. And in terms of the officiating, guys, I'm tired of it. Like, Auburn fans, and led by the idiot that is Hugh Freeze, quit whining. Somebody show me a dadgum Michael Jordan crybaby meme of Hugh Freeze. Quit making excuses, because that's what the entire fan base is doing now. Want to take the W away. You know what? It was in the first damn quarter. It was 7 points in the first quarter. So how are you going to take a W away when something happened way, way before that? And hey, don't forget you gave up 9 sacks.
And listen, I want to jump in here, but it wasn't illegal. They talked about how OU came and spoke to the officials and told them exactly the setup. They told them exactly what they were going to do. There was no subbing. No one left the field. So it's a fair play.
Yeah.
Play football.
Yeah. And the official was right there. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't legal, because by rule, black and white, it looks to be illegal. But when you get something cleared before the game, and that's what and this is just the old high school football coach in me, officials ask you before every single game, any trick plays we need to know about. And I'm sure that's when they said, yeah, we have this one play where we're going to run a guy off, but he's not going to go all the way off. And if they leave him uncovered, we're going to throw it to him. And there you go. They didn't say anything. I know exactly that's how it probably went down. So, yeah, I'm done with that. Moving on, Auburn, you need to prepare for the rest of your schedule, because you have Texas A&M this week. And guess what? They're not very bad. And they're probably going to light you up, because you've been worried about the one call or the pass interference call that wasn't done, which the ball was potentially uncatchable. Anyway, shut up, move on, worry about the Aggies. And I hope you're listening, Auburn Tigers.
Oh, no.
If not, send it to them, please, especially the Barn. The Barn podcast, like, I want to kick you guys. Never mind.
I love it.
Hey, our Mason Thomas, guys, what did I tell you last week? I remember saying this, like, glass half full. Guy's going to come in the second half. He's going to be 100%. He's going to be fresh as hell, and he's going to go get somebody. What did he do? My goodness, the guy went and got
that. Yeah.
The safety, guys, he went through 2 blockers and reached over one of them to get Jackson Arnold. I will say this. They need to teach him a different way to go after the quarterback, because did you see the first sack? He went after it in the same way that he got the targeting call.
Same way.
Exactly third this time.
It was a perfect poster of the way he got the targeting call the time before. But anyway, I was the loudest guy at the establishment that I chose to watch the game at, and my wife was putting her head down the whole time, but knew that was coming. Agree with the good fellow in the running game. Running game scares me. I do think the running game has a little bit of a different spin these next couple weeks, potentially, just due to the speed and the burst. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But yeah, 32 rushing yards, guys. 26 carries for 32 rushing yards. That is pathetic. Satania. I think Satania is our number 1 receiver.
Absolutely. I love Isaiah Centeni. You love him. He is just everywhere. I mean, he worries you. He'll make a mistake, but the guy will like correct that mistake. Like, he is awesome. I love this kid.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened to I want to keep going. What happened to Barnes? Like, he's like disappeared a little bit. He wasn't
He had
as
1
active
carry for 0 yards. I mean, I don't know. I think I think they were trying to ride Blaylock. They realized they couldn't run the ball. They just needed to move it any way they could. I'll tell you this though, too. There's some of the players are talking about how Jaden Knott's closer, and he may be coming.
Yes, I heard that also. Yeah.
Wait
Hey,
to be seen.
sorry.
Wait to be seen. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It was nice to see Keontez Lewis back after the hit he took, or the way he went out, I guess I should say, the week before. So that obviously was not a concussion, which is a blessing. And then, just, Kip Lewis, guys, had 10 tackles. The guy was everywhere.
Yeah.
Our entire defense was everywhere. The one, and we talked about this, I wish we could put a script of our text messages between each episode on here too, so people could, most of them, I don't know about all of them.
No.
But the secondary, guys, looked to be a little bit exposed. But I will say, the whole week, people were going off about how good the wide receivers at Auburn were.
They're very good.
Stop them. But I do think we got exposed a little bit on the back end, and that worried me a little bit too.
Hey, shout out real quick to our special teams also, because Sandell did have some nice field goals, and Miller, the punter, love the name. That guy put us in excellent field position constantly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, he booted a couple of those that were just unreal. So I love to see the improvement on the special team side. It was a great ball game for our special teams. I mean, in fact, may have helped us win that game. I mean, did help us win that game.
I was thinking about that too during that whole game. Used to we would muff a field goal and it would cost us 3 points, and that would really end up being a huge swing. And knock on wood, we haven't had that happen. We've got a field goal kicker that can actually kick through the uprights, and that's a positive thing to have. Did I hear he's a transfer from UCO?
I do believe, he is.
Yeah, I think I heard he's a transfer from University of Central Oklahoma, which is pretty cool. Really.
Yeah, you don't see a lefty either very often, left-footed kicker.
Yeah. What else about the Auburn game?
No, you mentioned our secondary. I think we have time to improve that. I think it was just some miscues. That's a true freshman out there playing with probably one of the best receivers in the SEC. So there are just some things I think he can they can fix up. Really, the biggest thing is timetable. Can they get addressed before in 2 weeks before we go down to Dallas? So I'm not too alarmed yet. I want to see what adjustments we make against Kent State, even though it's not the best competition. But I want to see what they do if they start passing the ball. Just him in terms of placement. A lot of it was just him not turning his hips, turning around, reading the eyes and addressing. He wasn't like, if you look at the game, he was never burnt. He was never really out of position. It was just a little delayed in terms of just reaction to the defender. That stuff you can fix. I mean, that stuff
it wasn't necessarily scheme or placement. It was, just some individual skills that can be shored up a little bit. And I do need to correct myself. Tate Sandell, the place kicker, is from University of Texas San Antonio. He's a transfer from Texas San Antonio. So.
Was it the punter, Grayson Miller?
Someone mentioned UCL. I'm not sure which one it was.
Let me go check that one while we're still talking here.
Well, I do want to emphasize this. We are now 4-0 against the Auburn Tigers. And so, you threw out earlier some of the new SEC schedule and the locks of teams that will play. And Ole Miss is on that. And the reason I bring that up is that Lane Kiffin wasn't real happy with the third slotting of Oklahoma being in there. We've only played Ole Miss twice, and they've won both those games. And so he was wanting something with a little more history to it. And just, this is so fresh and new, these teams in the SEC, these rivalries, these history. It for us, it's like you kind of, it's like this building rivalry between Auburn and OU now that is starting to form. There's so much animosity and hatred, particularly now after what happened Saturday in Norman.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, Grayson Miller, the punter is from Edmond. It doesn't say UCO, but he's from Edmond.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but anyway, yeah, good win versus Auburn, 24-17. Sooners roll on, and then we hear the news yesterday to where apparently John Mateer injured his thumb in the first quarter. And yesterday, Brent Venables and the OU Sooners send out a press release that he will have surgery on his hand and will be out 3 weeks or more. So, gentlemen, we go from super, super high. And yesterday, we'll get into it again here in a little bit, but yesterday was just a terrible day of college football in the entire state of Oklahoma. But let's focus on the Mateer injury.
No, that's man. I don't even know where to start with that. We just talked about how he played through it. Throughout the entire game after injuring the first quarter. As spectators, fans watching from in the stands or on TV, like we wouldn't even notice, that he was injured the way he was playing on Saturday. So it is disheartening to know that if you think about in the past 5-6 years when we're playing the team down south, we really haven't had a steady quarterback. It's always been an issue with our quarterback, whether it be
Since
someone coming out.
2020, you are correct. 2020,
Yeah,
we've only
so
had one starting quarterback. The year we won,
yeah,
2023.
it's so
You are
disheartening.
right.
Like it's so disheartening to know we're about to roll into Dallas potentially with a backup, and he started last, but he's a backup, and he's a backup for a reason. Considering what Mateer, I'm not saying he can't play. I think he will. We got a shot, but I will felt more confident with Mateer at the reins. But just talking about his injury, I think he has the best surgeon. They talked about, the surgeon that's doing the hand for Mateer and who he's done work on, and they talked about can't think of particularly who that
Jared
quarterback
Goff.
was. Like, yeah, Jared Goff. I think it was like 12 days or 13 days. It was pretty quick in terms of his surgery he had. So I don't know. I wonder if one of those deals to where he has a surgery. There is some therapy that goes along with it. And once they're done with that, it's really up to the player's discretion on pain tolerance in terms of recovery. And then, Tier's looking at it too. I'm pretty sure he's looking at the value in terms of what happens. And if I play it, re-injure it, is it, you know, will it worsen in terms of years to go? Or I'm not sure where he's at with that. But for what I do know is if that's the same material that played through an entire game with a broken or damaged hand, how determined is he getting back on the field to play this team down south? I know that's all they've been talking about, recruiting them, getting them over here. You can play in one of the biggest rival games in college football. I just know he would hate to miss this game. I just don't know in terms of what the in terms of re-injuring it, what it looks like for him. So I'm curious to see what happens. I will be looking closely to see what they give out in terms of reports, in terms of recovery. They may even wait. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't say anything and just list him as questionable, probable, come the week of the rival and see what they do on the actual game day. So
Oh, you
hey,
will.
it
They will
it
decoy that thing that week. He
absolutely
will.
they got
He
to they
will
got to
be.
prepare for two quarterbacks. Let them work for two quarterbacks. Figure it out.
Yeah. Iceberg, do you want to go on this?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm, very disappointed. But the kid's got a lot of fight. The thing about it, if it is his thumb, and that's what I keep hearing, you talk to somebody that doesn't know football and like, oh, you don't really need your thumb. You do need your thumb to throw the
Oh,
football.
yeah.
You need your thumb to throw the football. Could be, Gosh, yeah. You know, couldn't happen at a better time though. And I hate to say that, but you got a bye week and you got what I'll call a tune-up game. And then we'll see what happens in Texas. You know, I'm also going to say that the Jared Goff thing, I kind of looked into that because I saw that same article, and Jared Goff came in the second half because the backup got injured. So I don't know how well or how, you know, they're comparing that because he did play in the game, but I don't know how well he played and what his percentage was. But I'll say this. One of the things that I've been saying, I'll take a Michael Hawkins at 100% over a John Mateer at 60. Okay, like think about that. John Mateer hurries to get back. He's only at 60%. Maybe he's not as accurate. I'll take 100% Michael Hawkins that we had last year with some improvement. I mean, that's one of the things Venables is talking about right now is, you know, he's grown in a year. He's really adapted to the offense, which we'll see that at Kent State. But I think we'll also see super vanilla at Kent State. I don't anticipate them running him a ton because I don't think they want to walk into – Lord, I hope they don't want to walk into OU Texas with number 3. You know, so I think we'll see a very vanilla offense in 2 weeks. And then I don't know what we'll see OU Texas. My hope would be that, you know, maybe it was a super minor deal and he's just going to go in there and have a few things done and get out and be fine. But, you know, also I don't want to put your one out there just because of his name, because if he's not 100%, then he's not truly your one. So it'll be up to the defense. So the defense is going to have to hold them. I really wish our running game was better because we're going to need it. But, and I said I'd get to this, I think our quarterback run game is different with Hawkins. It's more explosive. It's stronger. It's, you know, kind of a, I don't want to say a slash, but a less make you miss and a more boom, don't blink or I'm going to run right by you. Hawkins is fast and explosive. So, you know, for me, I hate it. It sucked. And I hope he gets better fast, but I don't want to rush it just to say we played with Mateer and then him not being 100% and we don't put our best 11 at the time out there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys said in regards to John Mateer, and it is disappointing. It's disappointing for him from the OU team to even the individual. He was the leading Heisman candidate, you know, and obviously this will have an impact on that. And so I feel bad for the guy. I don't want to rush it either because that back half of that schedule is so challenging. You know, this is Arbuckle. This is the best opportunity Arbuckle has had with a quarterback in his coaching career. This is the highest rated quarterback he'll get to work with is Michael Hawkins Jr. You know, he's a 4-star recruit. He was number 20. I think he was number 20, and I'd read somewhere where John Mateer was like 120 something in the ESPN. Yeah, you know, it looks at the time, and John Mateer was like 3.5 stars. Obviously, John Mateer has surpassed all expectation, and none of those stars mean much of anything. You have to earn them. Well, we've seen that in Jackson Arnold scenario, but we know Michael Hawkins Jr. is a very talented young man. I do look forward to seeing what him and Arbuckle are able to come up with and the Sooners offense. And, you know, if we don't turn the ball over in that Texas game, if you guys remember, we really did, you know, that first quarter, you know, we had some things going, you know, but then we turned the ball over multiple times that were even turned into points quickly. So, you know, I think that, you know, Michael Hawkins, that's his biggest deal, you know, protect the football. Kent State, you know, we played them a couple years ago. Dylan Gabriel, I think it was, I looked at this earlier, it's like 7-3 at halftime. And so, you know, just briefly looking ahead at Kent State, and, you know, this is the bye week, get healthy, have to fix the running game. Even if our quarterback run game is unique, even if, as you guys mentioned, that all those things factored in, you still have to be able to run the ball effectively to win. Someone else has got to step up on offense. Isaiah has on the receiving side, Burke, he's got weapons around him, but we've got to be able to run the football. And I thought Blaylock might have a better game in that Auburn game. But, yeah, it is a disappointing deal, but I do look forward, we're falling back on a guy that we're familiar with, that has experience, that played pretty well. You go back, look at some of the highlights in the Navy game. Hawkins really came on then, developed a lot in that game, even though we came up short in that one. I think he does have a bit of he's got to get that internal clock going a little bit too. It seemed like him and Arnold did have some similarities when we saw them in play, that they both, tend to kind of want to hold on to the ball, get it out quicker. And, but yeah, just, I don't know. I don't want to rush it. I want Mateer to be healthy down the stretch, and we'll fight on. And with this defensive line, I do think we'll have a good shot in just about any ball game we're in.
Two more things that I thought about while you were talking that I wanted to say. One, and you mentioned the Navy game, but Hawkins has a win at Auburn.
That's a famous, iconic flip in the end zone.
Yeah. Two, think about the weapons we didn't have on the edge for him last year this time, with our wide receiver room being completely depleted, and the weapons that we do have this year. So that's a little bit different there, and a tight end. So I think, in terms of offensive weapons, he's better equipped this year than he was last year in terms of people to get the ball to.
Well, and I agree with you on the explosive run from him, because if you don't get him, he's gone. I mean, you saw that in the Auburn game. I think it was the first play of the game. You don't get a hold of that guy, he's gone. And he did. He had one, I think, called back in the Navy game too, where he just down the field. But yeah, I agree. It's a tough deal.
I would also add too, in terms of just me thinking about it now, the pressure. I think last year, I think we can all agree that was a lot of pressure in the quarterback area. I mean, you had both of them going back and forth. You didn't know who was going to start each week, right? I think right now, I think he's okay with being number 2 behind Mateer. That's what it seems, right? So I don't think he's coming in to compete for a position. Right, he knows that's Mateer's position right now. But he's gonna compete, but it's not the pressure of, hey, this is your turn to start this game and you're gonna start for the rest of the season. Now, if he plays well, then there's some conversation. But going into next week, I don't see him being able. I don't see his mindset as like, hey, I'm competing for the starting position. No, I'm back up right now. I'm gonna do what it takes to win this game. And whatever happens after this win, it is what it is.
Hey, today's day and age, he's competing for the transfer portal.
There you go.
This is his audition. This is his audition.
Well, but here's why I'm confident in also all the things said, plus Michael Hawkins Jr. I'm confident in, because Iceberg, you wanted to see a package in this, pass game with the two. And I think I think that was a fair comment. I mean, he is a very effective runner. We have confidence in Michael Hawkins Jr. I know the Sooners do too. So I'm excited. I'm disappointed. You want QB1 out there. He's proved to be everything and more that John Mateer has. But, try to look at this on the positive moving forward, and, just go get it.
Yeah, it'll be what it is, and it'll be interesting in 17 days, gentlemen, to see how we fare against that team down south. Okay, moving on. And St. Pablo mentioned it just after the intro, but last week we touched very briefly on the situation that is Stillwater, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State as we looked ahead to their Friday night matchup against Tulsa. We had a topic of, does Mike Gundy get fired if they get beat against Tulsa? St. Pablo called his shot with, they will get beat by Tulsa. And I think we all kind of pushed to, he would get fired if they got beat, but they may wait till the end of the year Turns out they didn't. They just waited until Tuesday, which was awkward as hell. But Mike Gundy out as the head coach of OSU Cowboys. Doug Meacham, the offensive coordinator, has been named interim. Gentlemen, the Stillwater situation, I keep calling it. What is going to happen in Stillwater?
They're going to shut the football program down in Stillwater, or they're going to go FCS. I mean, this.
That's a shot. That's a shot. You just.
It's a shot. I got to take a shot at Stillwater. I have to say, I've heard a lot of conversation on this, as you guys have. This is going to be crazy to hear from me, but I think they made a huge mistake firing him. Particularly, I mean, right now, I think in 10, he's had 10 win seasons for the past 10 years. Last year wasn't good, but prior to that, OSU has never been relevant without Mike Gundy. Other than who was the coach? I know everybody's going to hate me for not remembering this guy. Yes, he had like 3 10-win seasons, but Gundy's had like eight or 10 of them. I mean, he made OSU relevant, and so I'm not going to steal the good fella's thunder here because he made some comments before we got on. However, I just think it's really stupid to fire Mike Gundy, the face of OSU, right now. I mean, I know you lost to Tulsa. I get that. We saw that coming. We called that out. But you fired the guy.
Good feeling.
Yeah. So, oh man, this is tough. A part of me agree with it in terms of not the timing per se. I've heard some stories about the players didn't know he needed a chance to talk to his players. Like for someone that's been there that long, it's the way to do it. Like if you are planning to fire this man on Tuesday, you give him the right to talk to his team and let his team know. There's things that could have happened before they made the decision. But I've heard that some players was pretty upset because they had no clue. They found out through Twitter, they found out through just other resources, and it didn't come from the head coach that that he was being fired or whomever. They didn't have a big meeting to let the players know. It was kind of like, hey, you're fired, and now it's out to the public. So I think that's just distasteful, considering the time he's been, what he's put into that program, the organization. Gundy can be Gundy. I think his interview, he talked about, I'm going to be here coaching until either I want to leave or they fire me. So, he made that public comment and he called their bluff, and they're like, you know what, you're fired. So I just think it was distasteful in terms of how they did it. I think they could have handled it better. But in terms of timing, I don't know if it's the bad timing. If you think about now in the new rule on the portal and how that works, I think they shortened the time, and you can transfer out. If you're talking about looking for a big splash coach to step in, now this lets everyone know, hey, we are looking for a head coach, and if we're looking for a head coach now, so in terms of interim, they may have an interim coach for the end of the year, and now they have a national search, and they have time to find the best coach to take over in Stillwater. So I'm not opposed to the timing. I do think it's distasteful in the way they did it. When is it a good time? Do you go the whole season and you have recruits commit, and you know that you're not going to have this coach? So now you got these recruits that committed to Gundy, and you let them go into the school end of the year. Now these recruits decommit. Does it mess up, that? So I don't know if it's bad timing. I don't feel like it is. I think it's the right decision, but it's the way they did it. I am against. You got to have more respect for someone that's been there that long. He deserves it. His fans deserve it. And It's just not a good look for OSU and how they dealt with that. So,
well, here's the grand scheme of things. They weren't going to win another game. They weren't going to win another game. Well, here's the thing. Gundy became bigger than the program. That's my opinion. I think it was no longer OSU football. It was Mike Gundy's the head coach of OSU football. More about Mike Gundy than it was about the kids and about the program in general. And I know there was a lot of people in Stillwater were getting a little fed up with that. You've been there that long, and nobody talked about all the winning seasons he had until he was fired. What they talked about was his rant in that press conference. Every time he had a nationally televised game, I'm a man, I'm 40. I mean, it was about him. It wasn't about the program. And I remember that back then. Yeah, he was defending the kid, but I think he was bigger than the program. Here's my thing.
But can I interject on that though? Because it is OSU. You need that kind of branding. A guy, quote unquote, lifelike that he draws attention, even though it's about him. The university's on his shirt. Without that, no one, what are they going to know about OSU? You think you're going to get a guy that's going to go in there and make people recognize Stillwater by winning football games?
Yeah.
It hadn't happened.
In the Big 12. The two teams are out now.
They're behind in the Big 12.
They are
way
Here's
behind.
the other thing, guys. He's the only head coach I've ever heard refer to most of his players by number. Have you guys ever listened to a few of his press conferences? Yeah, number 17 did a good job. Like, you don't know the kid's name? My goodness.
Yeah, you're right.
Here's the thing.
That's pretty bad.
You're not gaining anything by firing him right now. You are not gaining anything.
I agree.
It's a neutral decision. You're going to lose every game anyway. You're going to lose recruits. You're going to lose kids to the transfer portal. You just have 41, 42 new kids anyway. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going somewhere else. They weren't bought into Stillwater. They weren't bought into your campus. They were bought into the guy.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
They're going to check back out. Okay.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned it last week, St. Pablo, the fact that when OU and Texas left the Big 12, there were programs that invested in NIL and there were programs that didn't. A perfect example is here we have Stillwater, OSU, and look at what Texas Tech is doing. They invested in NIL and they're on the move. So I see at least a 3 to 4 year lull in this program because if you would have waited, guys, listen, 3 months, 3.5 months, you save $5 million. You paid the guy 15. In 16 weeks, you could have paid him 10. And oh, by the way, let me remind you, you're not going to win another game anyway. But you had $5 million that you could have saved just by keeping the guy there. Your biggest donor is the guy you just fired. Your biggest donor of alum and Stillwater resident now has $15 million. Oh, and you just fired him because all your donors poured in to get to the $15 million to get rid of the guy. Guys, Stillwater's not made of money. That cash cow, God bless his soul, is gone. This is a problem. Stillwater is in trouble. All the OSU fans I know want to throw around all of these numbers. Oh, they've asked Nick Saban for an interview. Are you absolutely kidding me? Oh, we're going to get Ben Arbuckle. Who wants to step into this situation? You had 41, 42 new guys now, and they're going to leave. And you don't have any money. You don't have any money to pay a head coach. You don't have any money to pay kids because it's gone. So I think the best thing for them to do is to ask Doug Meacham, hey, will you coach us for 1 to 3 years? And we'll see what happens. Put him on a 3-year contract, give him a little bit of a raise from the offensive coordinator. If I was him, I'd probably ask for more, but then you don't have money for kids. Like this is not a stepping stone for Ben Arbuckle. I think he's looking at this going, you've got to be kidding me. They're going to struggle to find somebody to walk into this spot because they have zero resources now.
I agree. And it also looks like you caved to the student section because they chanted fire Gundy. And that's just one more reason as to wondering what are they thinking when they fight? Because football wins don't seem to really matter all that much because he is the winningest coach in their history. Being the face of a program doesn't matter all that much. So it got a little personal. You know what I like his personality, right? Well, I mean, he's a football coach, and he's bringing, generally speaking, I wouldn't say negative attention to the university. I mean, he's had some stuff, here and there, but nothing that was huge. I mean, well, there was that one comment about the DUI. If I go back and start thinking about it at one, but then,
Yeah,
anyways, I do think it was a colossally stupid move to fire him now. I was stunned, not as stunned as the John Mateer news, but pretty darn daggum close. I was like, what you're fired him right now? So
I expected it Saturday morning or even Sunday, but not Tuesday. The Tuesday was weird. Like you needed 4 nights of sleep before you could pull it, or something. I don't know. Or you needed hey, I got to call one more donor to see if I can get this last 1.5 million to get to 15. I mean, what are we doing here?
They do got a new AD that stepped in, so I wonder, how that worked out with him and making a decision. So I don't know. That it happened. He's fired. He's $15 million richer. So I guess here's the question: where does he go? Is he done coaching?
No, he's not done coaching.
Yeah.
And here's another rumor. I heard Kel Gundy said on the radio today, no, he's not done coaching, and wherever he goes, I'm going with him.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So that'd be interesting. That'd be cool to see, really. But no, there were rumors, well, gosh, guys, back 10, 15 years ago, it seemed like every year he was going to Arkansas, and I know Arkansas is unhappy. I don't think he's a great hire right now for an Arkansas. But I do think that, he's a great hire for a lower caliber FBS team. Or maybe he just needed a reset. I don't know. But Arkansas is, I forget I could see the guy right now, but he's on the hot seat. Sam Pittman. Yeah. Sam Pittman. So anyway, interesting times in Stillwater, America, and doesn't look good in terms of the future. So that brings us to the locks of the week. I'll go for no, I won't. I don't know what my lock is. Who has their lock?
I have my lock.
Okay, good fella. You want to go first?
Yeah. So last week, I told you guys, the air. I do not like Nebraska. I'm not a fan of Nebraska. Will never be a fan of Nebraska unless I have one of my nephews that's playing football now. Goes to Nebraska, and I have no choice. I have to be a Nebraskan fan until they're done. So they end up allowing me to cover my spread against Michigan. I think the spread was 2.5. They won by 3. So I did win last week, and I am going back to the Big 12. I am going back to Lawrence, Kansas. And I am going with the Jayhawks. They are playing Cincinnati. I have here 4.5 is the spread. That game is going to be on TNT. Kickoff is 11 a.m. Cincinnati is 2-1, Kansas is 3-1, but I got them winning 4.5. I will say, looking at the spreads this week, this is a very tight. This is a tight week. A lot of 4.5s, a lot of 6.5s, a lot of like 13.5s. Close games this week. There's only a few pick'ems. I think LSU and who the LSU play? Darn it. LSU plays who they play this week? Ole Miss. That's a 1.5. But there are only a few of those games. So I'm going with Kansas to beat Cincinnati 4.5 this Saturday.
All right, and you moved to 2 and 3, correct?
2 and 3.
Okay.
That's my second win. Jeez, man, it's tough.
Hey, is Notre Dame playing this weekend? In my head, I had Notre Dame, but I can't even find them.
Let's see.
I don't know. I know that you have more wins than OSU does.
All right, St. Pablo, you want to go next while I find my game?
Well,
here?
yeah. Auburn,
Notre
St.
Dame does
Thomas.
play.
They play Arkansas, and they are 4.5 favorites.
Oh,
Okay, that's fine.
Oh,
You
that's
say
a bet.
4.5? There it
Yes.
is. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, St. Pablo.
yeah. R. Mason Thomas made me very happy just because I'm a Sooner fan. And at that point, I was just so happy we were winning that ball game. But he helps cover the spread. I took the Sooners at the 6.5, and Boomer Sooner all the way. They came through. It was a weird game. I've got to be honest. It was kind of a weird, just scenario, and I did not expect that, but it was awesome when he sealed the deal. And so I also have more wins than Stillwater. I'm at 2 and 3. Good fella after that victory. And trying to get on the good side of the winning side at some point. I'm going to take the Washington Huskies at Ohio State Buckeyes. Washington is +10. And I think this is Ohio State's first true road game for the season. I've heard that Washington is a good team. And it kind of feels like one of those classic sneaky tough spots for the Buckeyes. I think the Huskies will keep this one close and cover the double-digit spread.
That's an interesting pick there.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Good one. We went undefeated last week, guys, as a podcast. We went 3-0.
That doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often at all. And the only way I remember that is because you always talk trash when somebody else loses. Anyway, I had Indiana as a 6-point favorite over Illinois, which Illinois was ranked number 8, I believe.
Oh my
and I really
goodness.
felt like they were way overrated, and it turns out they were.
You were so right on that one.
Yeah. So Indiana wins by, I don't remember how much, but it was a lot more than 6. And so I moved to 3 and 2. And as previously mentioned, I'm going to take Notre Dame, which is a 4.5-point favorite over Arkansas.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I think Arkansas is struggling. They just lost. They just lost to Memphis. They lost to Memphis last week.
Last year you were talking about Arkansas being horrible when they end up having a solid season last year. So
yeah,
don't get a humble pie Saturday.
Oh.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, like the page, and follow us on Facebook. And by all means, please comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you dislike. Tell us what you agree with. Tell us what you disagree with. Let's have some interaction here. So that'll do it for episode 6. Sooner Sound Waves. We'll be back next week. Thank you all.
Boomer!
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that.
Texas.
Here comes the, y'all don't